And first I'll address Cailwyn. By the way, these things, coming up with these examples, we use the reasoning and the logic that's used to come up to the wrong conclusion. Man, here's the problem when I start talking. I got all this stuff in my head that I want to get out, and I'm kind of lumping it up in the wrong order, and I'm kind of flying all over the place. Forgive me for that. Let me start over. Here's the thing, and I will first admit that I kind of messed up a little bit in the last video. I gave the impression that I was trying to state, and this is, I think, one of the major things that Cailwyn has a problem with. When I'm stating that human beings are irrational, I made it look as if human beings are incapable of being rational at all, and incapable of using logic. I also think that it inadvertently made people think that I was thinking that logic and rationality are the exact same thing. They aren't. You got to use logic in order to reason things out to begin with. But what I'm trying to state is that while we are capable of logic and rational thought, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't even be having this discussion, it's not what we normally engage in our everyday activities. It's not the default of the human mind. That is the crux of my argument. Human beings, by and large, act more irrationally than rationally. And this should not be too much of a surprise for anybody who pays attention to life, because life in and of itself is irrational. And I know people are probably going to be jumping up and down. No. The very fact that people are walking around to this day still going, why are we here, should be a clue. The fact that you guys still haven't been able to come up with a concrete reason and a concrete goal of life. A point to all this, in other words. The fact that you guys still haven't figured that out yet should be a clue, because there really isn't a point. It just is. And human beings, however, need order to be comfortable with the world around them. It's the way our minds work. Our minds work best when we compartmentalize things. Sure, we point out the negativities of labeling this and labeling that and labeling people, and I'm not to be labeled and all that, and I can understand the frustrations with that, but it's a human thing to do. It's what we do in order to cope with our world. Now, the thing is, despite all that, and the labeling and the definitions and all that, and us trying to come up with things and reason them out, we tend, though, when we're going through our everyday life, to just see things and instantly react to them and then rationalize them afterwards. So that means your gut instinct, your first response, isn't the rational one. It's always based off emotion and gut instincts. And I'm sorry, but emotions and gut instincts are not rational, because you need to use logic in order to reason things out. Rationality is dependent upon deeper thought processes, sitting down and thinking it through and understanding it. But when you're acting off of intuition and gut instincts, you are already operating under the conclusion that what you saw, you've already seen whatever you need. You don't need to think about it. You already know what it is, and you just go with it. There is no thought process. You're acting off of feeling. Think of Star Wars. It isn't about what you know. The Jedi is supposed to feel. Use your feelings, boy. Trust your feelings. You know this to be true. The funny thing is, human beings do this all the time. We base things on feeling, not reason, not rationality. We do it afterwards. And this has actually been measured and proven. Scientists have actually seen that many times human beings will just do something, but you'll only see the activity in the brain start, like the activity that shows when someone's thinking about something is only registered after the act is done. I know it sounds weird, especially since our mind always tricks us into thinking that we thought about it before we did it, but that's not the way it went. We reacted first, thought second. That's the default. Another thing is that the civilization that we happen to live in, the society we lived in, is a product of logic and reasoning. This is true, but that's an after effect of life. You can only do this when you sort of mentally separate yourself from what's around you. For instance, right now, we can discuss this type of thing we can sit here and discuss the nature of humanity, why people act the way they do, reason out what we can, like for instance, we can talk about, let's say, a psychopath down the street. We can reason out why the person's acting the way he's acting. We can try to come up with logic to see why is his brain malfunctioning, what we can do to make him better, and we would probably conclude that it isn't necessarily that this person is an evil person. It's just more that his brain needs repairing, or we need to do something to try to find a way to assimilate him into society. The problem is, when we go outside and encounter a psychopath, we aren't instantly thinking once they start acting towards us, this person needs repairing. Nah! You're like, get the fuck away from me! Or you run. That's your instinct. That's what you do. That's what people do. It is very rare to find somebody who is rationally thinking all the time. And here's the kicker. For some strange reason, Cailwyn, you, and I'm guessing Kelly Jones to an extent, are thinking that somehow I'm saying that there is something wrong with that. I'm not. I'm just saying it's what we do. It's human. I am not putting a value system on this whatsoever. I'm just pointing out, hey, it's erroneous to say that human beings are, as a whole, rational, because we are more irrational than rational. We are capable of rational thought. We are capable of using logic. I have no problem with that. I have no contention with that. My contention is stating that this is our default state. It's not. It's not at all. It's just a luxury that we're able to exercise because of civilization. That's pretty much it. But it's not our default state. It's one of our gifts. But it doesn't really define the totality of who we are and what we do. I hope I did this in a broad sort of way instead of going to each specific thing you stated in your comments, Cailwyn, just so you can see where I'm coming from, so that my answers to you will make more sense. And I have to say, I cannot agree with the contention that intuition and emotion are based on logic. They're not. They're based off of feeling. Feeling and logic don't mix. Otherwise, we would not have a generally emotional Spock in the old Star Trek shows. Which, by the way, I don't know if I like what they're doing with Spock with the new movie. I thought the new movie was awesome! But that's some video for